The legend, the one, the only Jonathan Rothstein had another new episode of his Inside College Basketball yesterday, and he had a lot of topics. He covered a bunch of important things, teams, players, all around the top levels of college basketball yesterday. Go check it out. He put a bunch of clips on his Twitter, but the one that has the most attention from me right now, he's talking BYU, and I am about to play a clip from Mr. Jon Rothstein. In this clip, he says the word unequivocally 2 times in a 2 minute and 19-second clip. And Card, I like to think, even if I'm delusional, I like to think that's a subtle nod to the two most unequivocally users grammatically in all of college basketball. Rothstein is a Sleepers follower. We are a Rothstein worshiper channel. So I like to think he's doing a subtle nod to us here. I digress. Jon Rothstein on BYU and their expectations for next season. Here you go.
And now you are setting the table for what is, in my opinion, unequivocally the most anticipated season in the history of BYU basketball. When the bar is set the year before and you go to the second weekend, you are pretty much saying, because we're adding the Bansa, because we're adding Rob Wright, a Sweet 16 trip would be a disappointment for BYU. And I will also say this. BYU should dream to go to a Final Four. That feels like an attainable goal for the talent level in this program. But I will say this, anything less than a trip to the Elite Eight will be a disappointment this year in Provo.
That's Jon Rothstein on BYU. Bold words. First off, undeniably the most excitement, the highest expectations going into a BYU basketball season ever. Completely agree with that. I think everyone agrees with that. There's a lot of hype around this team, but it concludes with his idea that anything less than a trip to the Elite Eight would be a disappointment. Do you agree with Jon Rothstein in framing BYU's expectations for this season that way?
JR, right here with it. Lock it in, Twinsky. Yes, I do agree. Now, we're gonna do the classic sleepers thing here. March is fluky. I get that.
Say it, Cart. Use the F word, the other F word. What is it? It's not just fluky.
Funky?
It's a fickle little beast. It's a monster. It's a delicate, evil, conniving. Many other words for March.
It is. I'm leaving that this season though. This will be the last summer of March is fluky. I'm gonna take a year off from March is fluky because you know what? You want to know a way to not be fluky? Win the damn game. Win the game, dog. Find a way. If you're that good of a team, you find a way. I don't really care. Fluky this, fluky that. I don't really give a damn. I think that Rothstein's right. I truly do because it's not just about Debansa. It's not just about Rob Wright. It's not just about Richie Saunders. It's about what else this team has. They have other pieces on this team. Moo Davis is going to be a guy. Staten could be one of the better freshman shot blockers in the country, even if he's not. Keba Keita is an absolute monster in the post. KY, my guy, is an up and coming monster head coach in the college sports world. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with, I think, in the upcoming years. And I think that if you want to set the tone of you want to be an elite program, right? And you want to be a program where guys want to go, guys want to play the best of the best, play deep into March, hang banners, win championships, do all the things that BYU really hasn't done up until this point. You need to capitalize on years where you have a team that is Final Four caliber, that is national championship caliber, in my opinion. So if you have a national championship caliber team, I truly do think that anything outside of like if they lose in the Sweet 16, I think it's a disappointment.
So, hand up here. Moment of vulnerability from your host here. I was all set. This is the first topic we're recording on this fine Tuesday morning. I make the topics the night before. I had the list. I was most excited for this topic. We usually start with the topic I'm most excited for because I was all excited to come on here and do my typical rant, my spiel that basing your expectations over a single elimination tournament that is a 6-game sample size at most is the dumbest thing you can do for your program. And I was going to disagree with Rothstein. I was going to lay out all the different ways that they could have a season that ends in the Sweet 16 that doesn't feel like a failure. But then I listened back to his clip. And as I heard him speaking, he used the correct word. He used the word disappointment. He didn't use the word failure. And those are two very different things, Cart. A failure is something where you absolutely undeniably failed. You came up short. You did not achieve. I think saying a season that ends in the Sweet 16, that could potentially end in a Big 12 championship, that could potentially end with banners in the regular season, I think framing it all about March as a failure would be incorrect. And that's what I was coming here to disagree with. But in listening back, Jon Rothstein didn't say failure. He said disappointment. And in that case, I can't disagree with it. I think you're right. Because the reality is, losing in March is one of the worst feelings for a fan base, for a player, for a coach, for anybody involved in college basketball. Losing in March is our emotions. The regular season, you lose a heartbreaking game. Does it hurt for a night? Yeah. Do you got another game 3 days later? Absolutely. Keep it moving. March is where it lingers. March is where we feel something. And if BYU, even if they're the number one team in the country, even if they go undefeated in the regular season, hang 2 banners for winning the Big 12 regular season and the Big 12 tournament championship, if they get to March and if they lose before the Elite Eight, if they just go as far as last year with this team and all the talent they have, I think Jon Rothstein's right. I think everybody involved would define that as a disappointment. In fact, if we were going to go there, I would argue he should move the bar to Final Four. Like, if BYU loses in the Elite Eight, are you going to tell me that everyone's not disappointed? I don't think anyone's going to hang their hat on, we made it 1 game away from a trip to Indy. Like, this team's good. This team's top 5 in the country good. And with the hype that AJ DeBonsa brings, I think you have to set the bar at that Final Four level. And Rothstein spoke to that. He said their goal should be a Final Four. In one sense, I get it. Like, if you just go further than last year's team went, it's going to feel like positive progression. But I want to make it extremely clear. While I'm fine with saying it will be disappointing wherever you set the bar, let me make one thing extremely clear. And this is advice for BYU fans going forward, because now guess what? Welcome to the big boy table. Now y'all might as well be the biggest, baddest program in college basketball. If you're going to spend money like this, next year's team might have the next AJ DeBonsa. We don't know. This might be the Kevin Young era. It really could be. Here's some advice. Framing everything around March results is the worst thing you can do, because you need to be dominant in the regular season before you can make March runs. And last year's team had whole months of the season where they struggled. That's why they got a worse seed. That's why they had to end up facing a pretty great Bama team early in the tournament than they should have. And in general, great seasons don't always result in great March runs, because one bad day can kill you. This video is brought to you by NBA 2K Labs, or maybe college football labs, because the people behind 2K Labs have just built something awesome. CFBLabs.com has everything you need to play college football 26 even better. Cart, you've been playing the game, right?
I have been, but I'm behind the 8 ball, Gregory. There's a lot of people out there who got a little bit of edge on me, but the good folks over at 2K Labs got me covered. They got the playbooks I need, the plays, the head-to-head coaches, knowing some teams. Obviously, way too many college football teams. I need the inside edge here, and they got all different types of things to help me get that edge.
Yeah, I jumped in and started playing Road to Glory over the weekend, and I ended up like a 2-star recruit that did not get 1 snap in season 1 because I chose the wrong school with the wrong roster that was way too loaded. Had I known that CFBLabs.com exists, I would have made a much more wise decision in my Road to Glory mode. They've got teams, playbooks, coaches, team comparison tools. You can literally see every single play in the game, every player in the game, their rating, what they're good at, all in one consolidated place online to help you make the right choices and win more games in college football 26. CFBLabs.com. Go check it out. To me, I know it sounds stupid because everyone loves March. A regular season championship is arguably as impressive as anything you could do in a 6-game sample size in March. And in the Big 12, we're talking Houston's been the team to beat, Cart. BYU should be focused on winning that conference, and then the March results will follow.
So I'm not saying you're wrong, but I might be using the wrong word. But like inherently think about that and think about what we do on a daily basis. We can't just throw March out.
No, I'm not
It,
saying to throw it out.
it's it's so important.
I'm not saying to throw it out. But I'm saying when we're talking, how do we define a season? Will you always remember where it ended? Of course, that's how life works. You remember the last time you saw something, right? Um, shit, every ex-girlfriend I've ever had, I remember the last interaction I had with her more than I remember the many times I hung out with them before that. That's how life works, right? But it doesn't define the full story here. Like basketball ultimately is a game that things can go wrong in a 40-minute window into. We've seen one seeds lose. That doesn't mean they had horrific seasons. They had phenomenal seasons that ended in disappointment. So Rothstein using the word disappointment makes it true. It makes it okay. If you tried to call it a failure to me, the March run can be a failure, but the season, which is what Rothstein's point is, the season can't be a failure because something goes wrong in March. 67 teams lose in March. They didn't all fail, right? It's just chaos.
Well, how about how it ends though? Like let's reference Purdue because that's the easy one to do. They lose to the 16 seed. That season was a failure.
They were the number one overall seed, won two banners that still hang in Mackey Arena.
That season wasn't a failure.
They had two banners that are still hanging in Mackey Arena.
I guess that's just a differentiating thing for me. That season was a
I
failure.
mean, listen, you are a Michigan State fan. You guys and your fan base have always viewed everything around March. So,
No, but maybe it's more so this. It's the way you go out.
yeah, it's bitter. It's the evil nature of the single elimination tournament that we love. It really is. It's cruel. It is cruel to almost everyone. But like again, if we're using the word disappointment, hell yes. Devastating. Whatever sad emotion you want to use, sure. Calling something that results in two banners a season-long failure because you had one bad game is never going to sit right with me.
Mm, that's fair. Yeah, it's
It's
fair. It's
just
the way to
not.
look at
Braden
it.
Smith's grandkids will pull up to Mackey Arena 60 years from now and see two banners from that season.
How'd that season end, Grandpa?
Devastation.
Failure.
Devastation.
I I see. I'd be interested if we went through every player on that Purdue roster and asked them if that season was a failure. I'd be interested to see what they said.
I think there are situations in certain teams that maybe you can pivot what I'm saying into what you're saying from. Like, for example,
Wait, not to cut you off. Let's do this. BYU loses in the Sweet 16 this year. They lose to they somehow the seeding works out. They lose to Purdue. They lose to Houston. Like that's not fair to call that. That's just them losing. That's depending on how the game goes, I guess that'd be them just losing, right? Like that just happens.
I guess I don't know. I don't think I follow where you're trying to lead us right now. Like unless they get upset by a Cinderella, it's not a
Yeah, no, I'm
failure.
talking about like the nature of not just losing in a certain round, but the nature in which it happens.
Okay. The nature doesn't matter all that much to me. Like, and I don't think Rothstein's arguing the nature matters. I think Rothstein's just like they need to do better than they did last year in March.
Yeah, yeah, they do. They should. They will, by the way, too.
They
Like,
should, but every year teams that should don't because it's a single elimination tournament. Like, and again, I'm not saying March results don't matter. They do. They define legacies. But where I have a problem with twisting the conversation into just it's all about what happens in March is the season. That's not true. March can be separate from the way we remember a season, can it?
yeah, I think so.
Like the season doesn't have to be a failure because you had one bad game in March. The postseason's a failure. The postseason's a disappointment. And I think a lot of people would argue the postseason matters more than the season. But to me, I don't like, we haven't even played a game. AJ DeBonce is not even here. And we're sitting here being like, the first 5 months of the year don't matter. Let's see what happens. You better make an Elite Eight. Like,
Mm, yeah,
no, what if they beat Houston by 3 games this year? What if they
I
go
feel like I'm
19 and
not.
1 in the Big 12?
I don't even think it's a Michigan State thing. I just feel like me emotionally, I'm not even like the right person for this. Like the Lions season was a failure.
So here's okay, you're talking me into this element of this. I think there are certain years and certain teams that you should take your view instead of my view for. Like, for example, the Purdue example we're going through. Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer were freshmen. Zach Edey was not Zach Edey yet, even. He wasn't the reigning national player. It was all a surprise. They were not even preseason top 25 that year. That year, because they lose one game in March, to me, cannot be a failure. When you were so ahead of schedule that you produced the National Player of the Year and a freshman backcourt led you to being the number one overall seed in two banners, right? And everyone's back the next year? Like you were just beginning something there. Calling that a failure to me is crazy. It was a one game disappointment. The next year though, right? Where you had Edey back. Say they had lost again in the first round. They didn't. They made a run to the national title game. But had they lost again in that first round, it would have been okay to call it a failure because you knew Zach Edey was back on a mission to right that wrong, right? It's kind of situational. So I look at this BYU roster. I guess all I'm saying is I don't fully get why we would put the burden of being better than last year on a bunch of guys who weren't there last year. Richie Saunders and Keba Keita are like the only two that are back for anything. Rob Wright didn't play here last year. Nothing about Yegor Demon's season applies to Rob Wright. AJ DeBonsa is his own singular thing, right? Like talking about like they need to exceed what last year's team did. I don't get that. It's not the same group of people, right? Like I don't know. Does any of that make sense contextually or no?
It does, but I think my last stance here, I don't think it, I think it's fun. I like to put a little bit more on the line. I want I want to be so immersed in it that a Sweet 16 loss feels like I saw my dog die in front of my eyes. Part of that pain makes me want March more.
I mean, this just feels like a toxic relationship between you and March.
I mean, there's a lot of things that are very toxic about myself. It's when I was born.
This is very true. You are a March.
I like Bane says like I was born in the shit. Like I legit was born in the madness.
You were. Yeah, you're a Madness Baby. So, all right, I guess I should probably just listen to the Madness Baby instead of try and argue my way out of that one. Also, just realized my son is a Madness Baby. Things are starting to make sense now.
Yep, exactly.